The man who built the research foundation of ChatGPT spent 1 year compiling a 52-page document proving his CEO had a consistent pattern of lying. Then he voted to bring that CEO back. The company is now targeting a $1 trillion IPO. In a federal courtroom in Oakland on May 11, 2026, Ilya Sutskever testified under oath that he had been thinking about removing Sam Altman for at least a year before the board vote in November 2023. He said Altman's behavior included undermining and pitting executives against one another. He said it was not conducive to any grand goal, including the safe development of artificial general intelligence. He built the case. He assembled the document. He voted yes. Then, days later, he reversed. He voted to bring Altman back. His stake in OpenAI is currently worth approximately $7 billion. That reversal is not the story. The reversal is the door. If you found this kind of breakdown useful, subscribe. The machinery underneath AI moves fast. During the same 12 months Sutskever was building his case, OpenAI's valuation went from $157 billion to $300 billion. The March 2025 SoftBank-led round, $40 billion, was the largest private fundraise in the history of technology. By February 2026, a new round set the pre-money valuation at $730 billion. The governance documentation was not hidden. The board crisis of November 2023 was the most public event in the history of the AI industry. Every investor knew the money accelerated anyway. The investors writing the largest checks are not neutral third parties. Amazon invested $50 billion and simultaneously signed a $38 billion 7-year cloud services agreement under which OpenAI runs core workloads on Amazon infrastructure. Nvidia invested $30 billion and sells OpenAI the GPUs that power its inference. Microsoft invested $13 billion and is owed 20% of OpenAI's total revenue through 2032, projected payments exceeding $13 billion across 2026 and 2027 alone. The investors' returns depend on OpenAI spending the raised capital on their own products. The valuation loop is not external, it is internal. The market treats both sides as independent confirmation of growth. They are not independent. Cisco ran a version of this during the dot-com build-out. Cisco extended vendor financing to customers buying its own equipment. The revenue was real. The demand was not entirely independent. When credit tightened, orders vanished. Cisco stock fell 86% between March 2000 and October 2002. It took more than 20 years to recover. Cisco was profitable at the time. OpenAI projects losing $14 billion in 2026. OpenAI's gross margin sits at 33%, constrained by $8.4 billion in inference costs in 2025, rising to a projected $14.1 billion in 2026. Cumulative losses from 2023 through 2028 are projected at $44 billion. Cash burn is projected to reach $47 billion annually by 2028. The company expects $100 billion in annual revenue by 2029. That will be roughly equivalent to Nvidia's entire 2025 revenue, achieved by holding a near monopoly over the largest hardware demand cycle in modern tech history. The question is not whether the revenue is real. The question is whether the demand would exist at this scale without the capital financing it. The governance layer makes the question harder to ignore. Mira Murati, who had discussed removing Altman for a long time, left in 2024. Sutskever left in 2024 and launched a competing company. Reports described OpenAI engineers as 8 times more likely to leave for Anthropic than to join from there. OpenAI spent $6 billion in stock-based compensation in 2025 to slow the attrition. By the end of 2025, Anthropic had overtaken OpenAI in enterprise market share, 40% to 27%. The company racing toward a $1 trillion IPO is losing the people who built what justified the valuation. The IPO is the mechanism that changes who bears the risk. At a $1 trillion public valuation, OpenAI would qualify for S&P 500 inclusion. Every fund tracking the index, every 401k, every pension portfolio, every passively managed retirement vehicle would automatically hold OpenAI. The current pre-IPO investors would transfer valuation risk onto those funds. The ordinary investor holding a target date retirement fund would become an OpenAI shareholder without making that choice. This exposure is not hypothetical. Microsoft's approximately 27% stake in OpenAI is already disclosed on its balance sheet at approximately $135 billion. Microsoft is in the S&P 500. Every index fund already holds Microsoft. A valuation correction at OpenAI flows directly into Microsoft's disclosed asset values. Amazon and Nvidia carry similar exposure. The AI boom is already inside retirement accounts, not through OpenAI directly, but through the companies that financed it. If this is a kind of story that should reach more people, subscribe before the next one drops. The trial is not a sideshow. Musk is seeking $150 billion in disgorgement and the removal of Altman and Brockman. If the court orders the for-profit equity unwound, the stakes held by Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, and SoftBank would be worth either zero or a fraction of current stated values. WorldCom destroyed approximately $180 billion in shareholder value when it collapsed in 2002. The mechanism here is legally different. The scale is comparable. During the trial, Altman was asked whether he always told the truth. He answered, "I'm sure there are some times in my life when I did not." 10 state attorneys general wrote to the SEC during the trial, demanding disclosure of his conflicts of interest ahead of the planned IPO. The House Oversight Committee flagged OpenAI's proposed investment in Helion Nuclear, a company Altman also invested in privately, as potential self-dealing, creating significant risk for the company. The safety mission is the architecture that made all of this possible. OpenAI was founded as a non-profit. That structure attracted early donations, including Musk's $38 million. It then enabled a $13 billion deal with Microsoft. The nonprofit became a capped profit entity. The capped profit entity became a full, for-profit, public benefit corporation. At each transition, the mission language was preserved. The financial structure changed entirely. Sutskever testified that Altman's behavior was not conducive to any grand goal, including the safe development of AGI. The mission moved the money built the valuation. The valuation is now seeking a public market. The people absorbing the diffuse costs are not the ones holding $7 billion stakes. The Stargate data centers under construction in Texas require gigawatt-scale electricity. OpenAI and SoftBank invested $1 billion in SB Energy in January 2026 to support a 1.2 gigawatt campus in Milam County. That power demand falls on regional grids. It falls on ratepayers. The workers the AI boom is supposed to serve are not holding OpenAI equity. They are holding index funds. The wealth is concentrated, the costs are distributed. Anthropic is the final shape the structure produces. After Altman's firing, the surviving board explored a merger with Anthropic under which Anthropic leadership would take over OpenAI. Sutskever confirmed this under oath. The merger did not happen. Anthropic instead became OpenAI's most dangerous competitor, leading an enterprise market share, closing a $30 billion Series G at a $380 billion valuation, backed by many of the same investors. The company the board tried to hand OpenAI to during its governance crisis is now outgrowing it in the market that matters most. Fiber optic cable survived the collapse of Global Crossing. The infrastructure remained when the company did not. The models will survive whatever happens to the valuation. The genuine productivity gains enterprise users are generating. Those are real, and they do not vanish because the stock corrects. What does not survive is the story. The story that every dollar flowing into AI infrastructure represented real, independent demand. The story that a nonprofit mission and a $730 billion for-profit valuation can occupy the same structure without contradiction. The story that the November 2023 governance crisis was a brief disruption rather than a documented condition that preceded the largest private capital raise in history. The 52 pages Sutskever compiled did not stop the money. They did not slow the valuation. What they did was enter the public record, under oath in a federal courtroom. Every regulator, every pension manager, every retail investor deciding whether to hold this company at $1 trillion now has access to them. The technology will outlast the fantasy. What breaks is not the invention. What breaks is the claim that the invention made every dollar spent on it real. If this channel is how you stay ahead of what the headlines miss, subscribe. The next one comes faster than you think.